What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today I want to try and answer the question I've gotten by far the most over the course of the last couple of years. You guys know I've actually owned an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, and a Nintendo Switch since the day they came out. And over the course of this time, I've actually bought and played over 500 games across these consoles. They're fantastic, but something I see people say is, if I'm on the fence and don't know which one to choose, DreamcastGuy, which do you think is the best of the best as of now? So today, we're going to dig into that, the good and the bad of each of these different machines, starting with the PlayStation 4. Sony's current generational hardware, the PlayStation 4, originally debuted in 2013 and has since gone on to become the most popular console on the planet. It is now selling hundreds of thousands of units just in a month-by-month basis. But why is that? Really, if it comes down to it, it's gotta be the exclusives. While there are hundreds of great games to play on any of these machines, Sony has the most that are exclusive to their system, and I mean that they've just come up with such a wide range of good games that you can only have here. Things like Bloodborne to give you a real nice challenge, Horizon Zero Dawn if you want a really riveting open world game that's gonna push you to think about the world around you and just society itself, or newer things like God of War, something that just reinvents a older Sony game into something that's completely redone for a modern generation. Each of these is stellar on their own, but together they combine to create a library that is now unrivaled. If you want some stuff that's going to blow you away and look fantastic while doing it, you really can win with the PlayStation 4. I also think that something that's really helped Sony that a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that they do so many digital sales every single week. While if you're a physical collector, this isn't the best news, I personally find it very interesting that it's very clear that they're trying their best to make sure everybody is spending money to get these great games, even if it's just years down the line at a deep discount. I think that this stuff is really cool and it's pushed me to end up grabbing a bunch of games I otherwise probably would have missed. You know, something that's really fantastic about this also is all the indie games. Since this is the biggest console right now, just an accidental side effect of that is that every single studio wants to get their game on this hardware, and that means that really every indie that's incredibly interesting and different, really experimental, is going to be here. And I found myself actually diving deep to try so many of these just because I like that there are now these extra options for when I'm craving something that's really quirky and different. That being said, not everything about the PS4 is great. I still think that the biggest issue is the fact that Sony doesn't want to listen. When it comes to general feedback, they're still not great about listening to fan concerns. When we beg for things like crossplay or name changes, it's still very clearly falling on deaf ears. I also don't like the fact that they're still so close-minded about the idea of backwards compatibility. I am happy that they've allowed us to play these older PS2 games on PS4 now, but it still kind of sucks that they keep trying to shove us into getting PlayStation Now as their sort of service excuse of making it where we can have retro games in a way, but in such a stupid way that it's kind of frustrating. I wish that Sony was more open-minded and spent some of the money they're making on games on improving the overall console experience. Alright, let's move on to the very next console. So this is the Nintendo Switch, the newest gadget to come out in this video, and something that I feel like is still being talked about a lot because it is so fresh. People don't really know exactly how to deal with it or how to interact with it. To me, I treat it like a console, the same way I think about my Xbox One and PS4, but even saying that is certainly going to piss off some Nintendo fanboys, and that's actually what's something I think is really fantastic about this. There's now a huge audience of people who exclusively treat this like a handheld, the world's most powerful handheld. Portability is a giant part of the Nintendo Switch, and that's part of what I have to say is the best part about it. The fact that when my girlfriend comes over, we can just literally detach a Wiimote right here, right now, and start playing some Mario Kart. Or if I'm trying to finish a dungeon and I get stuck, I can literally just pause the game, pick it up, and on the go, finish that work. This system is really, really good, but let's talk about what's probably the most important, of course, which is the games themselves. In general, I think we can all agree that Sony and Microsoft are pretty good companies. They do their best to make us some good games and good stuff. But I guess saying they make games is a little bit of a lie, because they actually just pay studios to make games for them. And that is where Nintendo has always stood out. While they design their really interesting hardware and make each of their consoles brilliant and unique, the biggest thing is that Nintendo makes all the games themselves. And this is a big reason that I think the Switch has been successful. Their first-party lineup is top-notch. Mario Odyssey, Bayonetta, Zelda Breath of the Wild, every one of these is not only really big and really fun, they're very different. I feel like when I'm playing something like Splatoon 2, it's hard not to notice that there has been a shift in tactics when it comes to the Nintendo. This generation, they're very much focusing on hardcore gamers, and I think that that was an incredibly smart move by them. They realized that people like you and me are going to be buying a ton of games and want stuff that's going to reward us, making it where if I play a game at the absolute best I can, I should get some sort of reward for it. I should be able to dive in and feel myself growing better with the game I'm playing, and leveling up in something like Splatoon and trying the extra hard DLC. It's very clear that they wanted this to be something that's going to be different and very cool. There are a lot of casual games on this system still, like Kirby All-Stars and some of the indies, but I feel like that is still something that's just there to try and make it where the hardcore gamers are having even more cool stuff to try out. I do want to say though that the Nintendo Switch isn't perfect. It's quite obvious that one of the biggest drawbacks is that, well, the graphics are not fantastic. In fact, there are some hardware issues within this. It can't really keep up with stuff like the PS4 and the Xbox One, which makes it where some of the ports definitely are a big step behind their rivals. That's not really a giant problem, but you can tell that certain stuff like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is never going to land on this system, no matter how much people beg for it. Seeing third-party developers kind of avoid the Switch is a bit of a downside. I mean, obviously, most people are putting out some games on it, and we have seen people backing it in a major way like Square Enix. I just wish that if we had some sort of slightly more powerful chipset in there, maybe we'd see even more stuff coming to it. It's not really a giant downside though, because the Nintendo Switch is still something that's going to be a giant great handheld for many years to come. But next up, let's talk about what Microsoft has been up to. So the last thing that we're going to be diving into here is the Xbox One, a console that personally I love a lot, but I certainly noticed that people really like to insult it. Let's face facts, Microsoft's piece of hardware isn't exactly selling great, but it definitely offers a major feature that I think everybody needs to take seriously, which is a huge library of backwards compatibility. They have personally gone back and actually basically talked to tons of studios to make it where their games from the Xbox 360 and original Xbox are playable on the Xbox One. You do not need to rebuy any of these. If it's on the backwards compatibility list, literally taking your physical disc and setting it in the console makes it work just as good as it did all those years ago. And you have to admit that it shows that the Xbox dev team wants their system to be fantastic. They want it to be the best dollar you can spend as long as you already have a nice collection like I do. But let's talk about some of the other stuff that I think definitely makes Xbox in 2018 pretty great. It seems like this system is trying to fit itself into a new interesting spot that I've never seen anybody else try and replicate, which is that Microsoft is trying to make themselves the kings of third party, making it where everybody who wants to bring their game to the Xbox One, they can, and they're actually given the most options on how to do it. They're always trying to make things have more accessibility, like the introduction of massive crossplay. So if you buy a game on Xbox One, normally you can play it with people on the Switch or people on the computer, trying to really open up the floodgates so that the online communities to these games have so many more options on ways to enjoy it. They've also tried to make things, well, as beautiful as they possibly can with the introduction of the Xbox One X. Now, I still don't like this that much myself because I'm not really a giant fan of 4K graphics, but I can understand that why the community behind this is absolutely in love with it. If you want just raw graphics that are going to make your eyes eyes bleed, it's so gorgeous, you're really going to win the most when it comes to the Xbox One X. I think that it's just one of those cool things that you can see that they're trying to make it where you have a lot of different avenues to enjoy your Xbox, and knowing that I can have so many thousands of games across all these different generations on one machine is really, really impressive no matter how you slice it. I do think that there is really only one humongous drawback in general to the Xbox One though, and it's kind of the elephant in the room, which is that it severely lacks exclusives. You know that I'm a huge fan of things like Gears of War. I mean, I have played every single one of these to completion, doing a full master file, but the fact that I'm still talking about Gears of War 4 in 2018 is a little bit sad. They just keep trying their best to implement exclusives and all of them seem to fall flat. Like Sea of Thieves. This game is pathetic and they put so much time and effort into it only for it to be a very crappy ocean simulator and nothing else. Microsoft is quite obviously putting a lot of eggs in their basket for the next generation, trying to set stuff up for the Xbox 2 to be as big and beautiful as it possibly can be. But right now, when it comes to the Xbox One, you're sort of stuck playing games that already exist without a ton of stuff to look forward to. That's not necessarily an awful crime, it's just one of those things that makes me wish that this system in general could just be a little bit more before it ends up getting crushed by the Nintendo Switch. You know, going back through my collection to make this video has been really, really fun, and it's really kind of made me realize that all three of these consoles are fantastic for such different reasons. If you go with the PlayStation 4, you're bound to get amazing exclusives that tell some really heavy stories. If you go with the Xbox One, you're sure to get some great games that are going to be playable for years to come and years ago because of its amazing backwards compatibility program. But if you're somebody who likes to play on the go and enjoy some nice local co-op multiplayer or something, the Nintendo Switch is definitely the path you should take. But really, I'm glad I own all three because they're each so spectacular in their own separate styles, and I really respect them for that. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Alright, I guess, you know what, I'm gonna go take my consoles on the go, because that's kind of the fun of life, right? Let's go take them over to a friend's house and play some games. Alright, here. Oh god! Oh god! Oh god! No, that didn't work. What was my plan there? Oh fuck, well, do me a favor, give this video a like. Well, I'm gonna clean up the office the rest of the day, I guess. Jesus. Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.